It is the 200 level Mike Carpenter in the basement studio on a freezing cold Sunday morning in Champaign. Actually, most of the Midwest, I would presume. Going to be a cold game at Soldier Field. Hopefully the Bears can salvage a little bit of sports glory on this weekend, where Illinois did not get things off to a particularly good start against those pesky Nebraska Cornhuskers. And in fairness, Fred Hoiberg does have a pretty good-looking team. He does. You cannot lose that game. You can't. And this is becoming a pattern. Now, I got my profanity-laced tirade out of the way. My poor friend Kenton had to listen to 30 minutes probably of me just bloviating on how frustrated I am with the current state of things. So, I can't promise I'm not going to curse once or twice, but I will try to be very judicious about the use of language in this podcast. But it's difficult. It is difficult when you consider just how predictable that was. I mean, let's call it what it is. It was a Saturday game at State Farm Center, and I needed to effort this. I wish I would have done that. And if anyone out there in the comments section is looking for a project during this podcast, find the record of Brad Underwood's teams on Saturday games at the State Farm Center, because I swear to God, they're like 500, maybe. It just doesn't feel good. But regardless, there's a little bit of excitement when you get some bad weather. We had the 6 inches of snow, I think, if not a little bit more in some parts of Champaign yesterday, but people made it out. There were probably almost 10,000 people, I would guess, in the State Farm Center, and they were loud, and it was going to be a fun environment. It was a fun environment when the team gave a crap, which was too few and far between to sustain any sort of home court advantage. So the first thing that struck me is there's no home court advantage for Illinois basketball under Brad Underwood. Not when you compare it to peers, other top 25 programs. We drop a good 3 or 4 games a year at the State Farm Center. And I'd have to go back again and effort the exact number, but I know that to be true, and then I could find you specifically how many per year. Even the year with the Elite 8 team, they dropped games at home. Maryland, I remember, in that year. That just are confusing and don't make any sense. So me and my friend Kenton, we leave the State Farm Center. Everybody's just silent. As what are you going to say? It's a buzzer-beating 3. It was contested, one of the few times we actually contested a shot in yesterday's game, and they made it. But the fact you were in that position in the first place speaks to me of a complete breakdown in any sort of idea that we have a home court advantage. We simply do not. The production is there. The Orange Crush is fine. I got no complaints for them. I'm sure student sections nowadays, I could do the old man yelling at the cloud thing. They're doing fine. It's a cool environment. It was fun to be there, except for that stupid product on the court that continues under Brad Underwood, in my opinion, quite frankly, to underachieve. This is a top 10 talented team in the country. I'm talking to my friend Andrew via text yesterday, and he knows ball. And I'm not going to say that because Andrew said this, I agree too. But, I was asking him, am I crazy, or are we actually really talented and it's just not coalescing? And he said, dude, we probably got 2 or 3 NBA guys on this team. Keaton Wagler, by the way, will be a one and done. So enjoy while he's here. And it's unfortunate because I love watching this kid play. He had a couple mistakes yesterday, but he played 40 minutes. So you got some NBA dudes on this team. You got size. You got length. You still have a very highly rated offense, top 10 in the country. But they are Charmin soft on defense. And this is now 3 years in a row where that has been the case. So it is very frustrating to look at a team that has players that if you gave them to a Fred Hoiberg, you would feel much more heartened at their ability to max out their potential. But with Brad Underwood, I have very little faith that he's going to do that. So what do we talk about today? It's a long season. They're going to win some games. They're going to drop some frustrating games. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. But I think as we sit here today, how much faith do you have they're going to make a run in the NCAA tournament? And listen, that's why you play the games. It's a single elimination tournament. A lot of things can happen. But as I sit here on this freezing cold Sunday morning after witnessing, fortunately, a sub 2 hour game, it was nice and quick yesterday. Not painless, but quick. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the same thing. It is the same thing with Brad Underwood. And here's a theory I have. Could we please change the hashtag from everyday guys to just hashtag pretty good? It'd be more accurate. I can't say that Brad Underwood's been bad because he objectively has not been. He's objectively been good to very good in his best years. But could we just stop with this everyday guys mantra when they simply are not that? There is no consistency with the way this team plays. There's no consistency with which this program shows up when they play better teams. He's got a lot of ranked wins, but he's got a lot of ranked losses. He's got a lot of home losses that just are befuddling to me. And worst of all is his seeming inability to change any of it. I shouldn't have listened to his radio postgame because if he would have thought that Sam Hoiberg was the second coming of John Stockton. I've never seen a coach verbally fillet a player as much as Brad Underwood did yesterday with Sammy Hoiberg, as if this guy is God's gift to the game of basketball. Solid player. I didn't know that he was some sort of unbeatable half-man, half-centaur out there on the basketball court that somehow rendered you hopeless against the powers of Sam Hoiberg. I heard Brad Underwood talk about, that was 2 bad days of practice. Interesting. Well, I don't know. Could someone remind me who's getting paid millions of dollars to figure that shit out? The 11th highest paid coach in the country. Could someone remind me who's in charge of this? If you have bad days of practice, who's the person that can actually do something about that? There's no urgency. Brad Underwood says he's angry after the game. I don't know how angry he is after losing that game. I think that he has a mindset that trickles down to the players, which is we'll flip a switch on. Eventually, we'll flip it on. We're talented. We got swagger, which is completely unearned, by the way. Completely unearned swagger. And because he thinks they can turn it on anytime, his players do too. And guess what? That's not the case. They're good, but they ain't that good. And if you expect them out of all times to turn it on against really good competition in March when it matters the most, then you must be watching a different program than I have the last 9 years. Because I'm frankly sick and tired of this team underperforming when you consider the talent on the court. We could have an argument. Where are they? If you just stack talent of rosters in the country, where are they? I think certainly a top 12 team, given the talent that they have. And based on what, Carp? Well, I don't know. The metrics continue to love this team's offensive ability. When I just look at the height and the weight of these guys in the program, I say, well, okay, like that's a big team. There should be matchups that they can exploit. And they do offensively. But defensively, they get their bell rung time and time again. And Brad Underwood says the same thing time and time again. He has no solutions for the defense. So when I say let's change the hashtag from everyday guys to hashtag pretty good, that is because that is what this program is under Brad Underwood. And the hopeless feeling that I felt yesterday and still kind of do today is this. You are not firing Brad Underwood. It's not even a conversation worth broaching. It's not going to happen. I don't even know myself if that is the answer. But I don't know if this is an old adage or not. Isn't good the enemy of great? And what strikes me, like the conversation I had last year with the boardroom, younger fans will look at Brad Underwood, understandably, as a Lou Henson type figure. What on earth are we going to do after this guy leaves? I mean, we're going to be screwed. In my lifetime, I've seen basically 4.5 good coaches and 1 not so good coach at Illinois. That's a pretty good ratio, which tells me that the program can't sustain coaching changes. And this is all hypothetical because, again, it ain't going to happen unless Brad left on his own accord. And at his age, what is the likelihood of that? But I have seen Lou Henson, and I did see the end where basically he was having the same amount of March success as Brad Underwood, which is to say, not much. Lon Kruger, who I think is a very apt comparison to Brad Underwood. Bill Self, who's a Hall of Fame coach, and Bruce Weber, who had half a good career and half a not-so-good career. I throw John Gross in there, but quite frankly, John Gross, as Trevor pointed out in our thread yesterday, he's doing well at Akron. And who knows if a few bounces go this way or that way, he makes 3 tournaments instead of just 1. But regardless, that wasn't going to work, so Illinois made a move. The question is this. What do you want from your basketball program? If you want 20 wins a year and NCAA tournament appearances, he has done that, and his legacy is secure in that way. But if you want Final Four appearances, if you want the notion when you enter a game against a good team that your coach might outcoach the other guy, you got to ask yourself, are you getting that with Brad Underwood? And I don't think this is overly reactionary. There's plenty of tape. There's plenty of data. He wins a lot of games. He also loses games based on the talent that he has accrued himself. He loses too many games for the amount of talent he has compared to some of his opponents. There are too many games where they come out and look like they don't even care. When the 8, 9, 10,000 people that traipse their way through shit weather put more of an effort forth to get to the game than the team did playing the game themselves, that's a problem. This was a game in which you were favored by 10.5 points. Vegas doesn't always know, but these spreads don't come out of thin air. They are thought through. That is telling you that Illinois, with their size, should have been able to have their way with a slow-footed Nebraska team. But it didn't matter. You got out-schemed, and you had no answers because your coach has no answers when he runs up against a coach with a decent roster and half a brain. So, again, 20 wins and NCAA tournament appearances. Are you okay with that? I'm not going to say that if you are okay with that, you're wrong. I'm not going to say that. But have we peaked under Brad Underwood? Have we plateaued? How much faith do you have that he will be able to get a roster together while he's here and make a run that firmly establishes himself? And this is what's so funny about it. If he makes a Final Four, he's the greatest coach in Illinois history. A Final Four. I have no faith he can do it. None. So, an opening diatribe, if you will. But I want y'all to line up the comment section because I want to hear from you as well. In doing this podcast this morning and talking about the macro with Brad Underwood, I realize a bit of it is a fool's errand because he's not going anywhere. But we have to talk about it because as a fan base of a very good basketball program, historically, well before Brad Underwood got here, I feel like I got to plant the flag a little bit as a borderline 40-year-old that's seen a lot of Illinois basketball and say, wait a second. It is okay to consider, is there more out there? It is okay to consider that. But let's talk. It is the 200 level and our sponsors, which if you want to support us, especially in the holiday season, you can support our sponsors, including Hamilton Walkers, downtown Champaign. It's a great place to go no matter the season, but especially during the holiday season. Cozy bar, which is really cool because they kind of got the black and white tile on the floor. It feels like you're in the 1920s, almost not maybe a speakeasy vibe, but classy bar area if you want a more casual dining experience. The dining room in the back is just, especially in the cold winter months, a great place to cozy up in their circular leather booths. You get a bone-in steak. That's what I get, at least. Bone-in steak, medium, steak fry, family style side. So plenty to share with people at the table. Old-fashioned. Oh, God. I mean, just we're going to go one more time before the year is over because we can't not go during the holiday season. So that is Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign. State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com for life, auto, home, business, renters, you name it. Brian is my guy, and it could be your guy as well at brianismyguy.com. I think that Isaac mentioned in the text thread with me, him, and Trevor yesterday. He first said, I think my friends, he was watching the game with some friends, and he was worried that they thought he was maybe suicidal or something watching that game. Isaac is an emotional fan. I don't know if he was joking or not, but I think he said he broke a remote. All this to say, listen, sometimes you break things. Sometimes things get broken. I'm just saying there might be, if not remote insurance, property insurance of some kind, personal possession insurance. State Farm has plenty of options. I will say that we've been doing the homeowners and auto package with Brian, and just super easy to work with. A great guy and one that you can trust for things like that. So that is State Farm agent Brian Hansen. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728 and join their maintenance program. We've been doing this 3 years running now. No overtime or weekend fees, guaranteed same-day service. Furnace check in the fall, which I hope you already got that because ours is doing great on this very cold morning. And then an AC check in the spring. That's Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend at 217-841-4728. And finally, Owen Builders LLC. I'm on at owenbuildersllc.com. Luke, big Illini fan. Don't know if he broke a remote or not yesterday. I wouldn't fault him if he did. But when he's not watching Illini sports, he is working on home improvement projects, and you can check out a gallery of their work online at owenbuildersllc.com. Get a quote while you're there. Got to thank Champaign Showers Podcast Network. Appreciate them. And, hey, I know they lost yesterday, but this book right here, which, by the way, thank you for those that have purchased this for your stocking stuffer for a Christmas gift for the Illini fan in your life. That's the 200-level book available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle on Amazon. So we always get that holiday push. We did last year. We are again this year. So thank you all for that. And it does cover the last 30 years of Illinois basketball, the good, the bad, but mostly good, which is a nice transition again. And Brad Underwood has been a good coach. And I want to say this before I start getting the comments, because maybe today will be more of a conversation than a monologue. But I think that I want to reiterate, if this were Brad Underwood's last year, for whatever reason, his legacy at Illinois would be that of a very good coach. We would look back fondly on Brad Underwood's tenure. If you want to say he resurrected the program, I wouldn't say you're wrong. And he made us relevant again. We are relevant, I'll say that. I mean, when it comes down to it, how relevant are we compared to some of our peers? That's a good question. But yes, we're relevant. It's just tough. Does anyone else feel stuck? Almost like a suffocating feeling, only because this just feels like what it is. That to me has been the hardest thing to reckon with in the last 24 hours, is that, of course, it could be worse. I think the tricky thing about the argument, it could be worse. To me, it's kind of a chicken shit argument. Imagine being in there's people that are in like loveless marriages, right? And they probably find ways to say, well, it could be worse. And if I hear it in that context, I think, oh my God, that's really sad. I mean, you got a life to live, man. Like, find your way out of it and go find, maybe that is a completely terrible apples to oranges comparison there, but I don't like the mindset, it could be worse, being the primary driver for not making a change or not asking yourself, can we get better? I think that what Brad Underwood has done pretty well is identifying the things that didn't go well the year before, hence the hiring of Cam Crocker, hence the older, at least in terms of age, older roster. I think he is able to identify it. I don't think he's able to fix it. And when I say fix, that means actually win the amount of games that your NIL budget apparently is affording you with this roster building. You got money to be a top 10 program. I don't think you have the coach. So if you got top 10 money and the coach is continually putting you in the top 25 and making tournaments, do you move on from that? I don't know. I'm asking the question because I'm bored. I'm sorry. I'm bored with the state of this program. I said this during the UConn game. We win the Tennessee and Ohio State games thinking, great, some momentum. And they just cannot sustain it. They cannot sustain momentum and actually ride good vibes into Braggin Rights. And listen, they're going to beat Missouri in Braggin Rights. They will. 9 days off, excuse me. I have almost zero doubt that they're going to beat Missouri. Like just what it is. That's fine. And that'll be a decent win against a team that somehow has worse defense than you do. But I'm just bored with the predictability of Brad Underwood's program. So let me just say this one more time for the young fans. This is the conversation I got into with the boardroom last year. If he is all you've known as far as Illinois basketball success, I understand that. If in your formative years you grew up watching John Gross continue to flail when it mattered most, I understand why you would hold Brad Underwood in such high esteem. What I'm telling you is from a historical perspective, Illinois basketball is a good program. The John Grosses and, God forbid, the Gene Bartos are few and far between. This is a program that has churned out winning coaches and winning teams its entire history. What makes Brad Underwood untouchable? for anyone that would not have the conversation. What makes him untouchable? I appreciate the Big Ten Championship and the Big Ten Tournament Championship banners. So that's 3 total, and the Elite 8 run. If they had just beaten Loyola in 2021, and I know I brought this up with Trevor and Isaac after the Alabama game, and Trevor's like, what the hell are you talking about? I said no, hear me out. The psychological impact that has had on this fan base and on this program for that matter, it's set an early precedent that Brad Underwood is not going to win that big game. And you know what's so funny about all this too? The loss to UConn in the Elite 8, I have really just sort of flushed that from my mind, and yet you gave up a 30-0 run. You embarrassed yourselves against the future national champion, fine, but like I blocked it out. I literally stopped watching the game because what's there to watch at a certain point? I went upstairs at my in-laws' place and I typed up a Substack to just kind of think through the season and try to contextualize it in the moment. This sucks, but really good season overall. But I'm sorry, you don't just give up a 30-0 run. And this goes to Brad Underwood's inability to stop the bleeding whenever there is bleeding. Whatever the antithesis of a tourniquet is, that is Brad Underwood. Peyton Sanford. Or is it Price? I don't know. His last name's Sanford, and he played for Iowa. And I think there's 8 Sanford brothers because they just churn them out. Ma and Pa just keep having Sanfords. 26 points in a half for someone who I think is averaging around 10 this year. And I turn my friend Keaton after he hits his 5th straight shot. And I say, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I jokingly text Trevor and Isaac. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say a damn word. Not shades of Bruce Thornton, shades of JT Toppin. Yeah, good players. It's funny, though, when you look at their box scores and you see, oh, my God, they are capable of being held to 15 points in a game instead of 30. What a novel concept. Not letting the 3rd option or the 4th option on a team, in the case of Sanford, go off and then make the margin of error for you that much smaller. When you allow the 3rd or 4th option to go off in that manner, you're kind of screwed. Because Rank Mass was going to get his, and he did. Lawrence woke up and hit the game winner. So when you spot an opposing team that many points, you don't even get a body up on him to disrupt him. And there's nothing there's no buttons he's pushing that are stopping this. It's not acceptable. You give an average coach this roster, they would have the same record right now. Come on. Wins above replacement is a concept in Major League Baseball. If you have a replacement level coach come in with this group, I think they're 8-3 based on the talent that I see in the court, based on the fact that you have this roster. And thank God Keaton Wagler is good because you are playing him and Kylan Boswell. You're wearing them down to a nub because apparently you don't have enough backcourt depth. And Mihailo Petrovic is just goofy Maloofi out there, just running in circles and doing goofy shit. So you don't have really any backcourt depth. And yeah, the Ty Rodgers thing hurts with that. You got Andrej Stojakovic, who is producing, and he did last night. And you got all these tall guys that are like, what's a rebound? I don't know, boss. What's a rebound? And then you got Brad Underwood saying that David Mirkovic was in Serbia yesterday. At least he didn't make a fart noise into the microphone, but I'm thinking of that I think you should leave skit where Tim Robinson is in a hot dog costume after a hot dog car drove into a clothing shop right through the plate glass window. Or I guess maybe not plate glass, but anywho. And he's wearing the hot dog costume. He says, we're all looking for the guy who did this. Well, Brad, I think we're all looking for the guy who assembled this roster and is unable to coach them up. It is mid-December. They have played together long enough. Tommy's been back from injury, and he doesn't need to be 100%, but he doesn't need to be 5%. He sucks right now. It's the same crap. Inconsistent, not every day, soft. It is hard to root for a soft team. Nebraska got anything they wanted because you couldn't body him up worth a damn. You didn't disrupt them one way, shape, or form. I can't even get my freaking cliches right here. You allowed Nebraska to punk you, essentially. and your talent brought you back. But anyone that's making excuses for this, just stop. Go read a book. Read my book. Remind yourself, this is not Brad Underwood's program. Meaning, historically, it goes well beyond Brad Underwood. And just because John Gross gave you the scaries doesn't mean there's not other dudes out there. I'm sorry. I just think it is I'll use the word again, a chicken shit mindset to accept things like that and say, but, when you consider what he's done, I mean, and I posed this before and I'll ask it again. If Brad Underwood were to accept another job, Kansas State opens up because that weirdo who coaches them now struggles again this year, which I assume he is. And he goes to Kansas State to ride out in the sunset for the last few years. Because if you're a Kansas State fan, you take a Brad Underwood in a heartbeat, you'd be pumped to get a consistent winner. But what would your emotion be? Legit. I'll tell you what mine would be. I would be, hey, Brad, appreciate it. A lot of gratitude because you did raise that floor immensely. We had success with you. We had a few banners. We had some good times. But it's okay. It's time for something fresh. I'm not having fun watching this anymore. If you are, Godspeed. Let me rephrase. I'm not having consistent fun watching this anymore because I feel like the end is already sort of predetermined. And you can say that's a negative mindset. Dude, I'm going off of 9 years of history with Brad Underwood, almost a decade. So it's not as if I am just pulling these things out of thin air. I'm not asking Brad Underwood to be the Kurt Signetti of college basketball. I'm just asking him to be among his peers in the top 15 when it comes to actually coaching. And I know that is a big term, but I'm talking about rotations. I'm talking about scheme. I'm talking about even the macro idea of having his team ready to go, which he does not have that consistently enough. Yeah. Listen, it's all good when you're winning. I get it. Me and Jeremy and Lon talked about this a lot at 93.5. It's like when you're winning, the things that bother you about a coach when they're losing are kind of cute. Brad Underwood's swagger is really cool when you're winning. When they're losing, I find it insufferable. I just do. If you're wondering if Carp has a bias against Brad Underwood, sure, I'll admit it. I don't like the cut of his jib. I don't think this swag that he has is earned. And to me, it's this simple. I feel like Brett Bielema is trying far less than Brad Underwood is to sell me a bill of goods. I feel like time and time again, Brad Underwood is trying to sell me on something when all I want him to do is just go win games, especially in March. That's all. You know why I like Keaton Wagler? Because he doesn't say anything. He just plays his game. Brad Underwood talks. And it's the same thing, which is good. Again, let's not forget, it's not like the program sucks. It's good. It has plateaued. Have we passed our peak? I think we have. You could make an argument against that and say, hey, all it takes is one great assembled roster and one more Terrence Shannon Jr. I'm sorry, but those guys don't grow on trees. Brad Underwood's ability to identify talent is his greatest strength. But to the tune of 3 All-Americans, you have 1 second round or second weekend appearance to show for it. And I don't think this team's bucking that trend. And what makes it all the more maddening, and I'm going to be a freaking broken record on this, Brad Underwood's coaching flaws can be overcome with an advantageous seed, with advantageous matchups in the tournament. And a loss like last night is just a reminder you're not a 3 seed, you're probably a 6. Because they're going to drop other mind-numbing games like this. Nebraska's not going to hurt you so much because they are a tournament team. Yeah, I'm going to give that to them. You got a lot of tournament teams in the Big Ten. You better start winning those games, let alone at home. So, yeah, you're a 6 seed. I mean, I would put $100 right now. If you say, I'll give you the 3 seed and I'll take the 6 seed. Well, and if it's a 4 or 5, we'll just pocket the money and say the bet's off. But which one's more likely? Come on. You know the answer to that. We know the answer to that. And then good luck when you play the 3 seed. Even a weak Kentucky 3 seed. It was right there for you last year. And you showed up that Sunday afternoon like you didn't care. I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of his teams, not just when they lose a hard-fought game. Yeah, okay, yesterday was close. Why? Because you're more talented than they are. But it wasn't close for a good chunk of it. They held you at arm's length, and it took a furious rally. And credit to you for making that rally, but no credit to you for having to be in that position in the first place. Have a pulse. Have a game plan. Have something that makes me feel as if, you know what, Brad Underwood, he's got his finger on the pulse of this game. I didn't have that at all yesterday. So it's frustrating, which you might have been able to sense from the tone of my voice. Ray, unacceptable loss. Eric, I'm sick of Underwood. Mitch, Illini are way too soft. Seth, Brad, outcoached again by someone with less talent. You can't dispute any of that. And here's the thing. The same way that I'm not going to fault someone that much, let me rephrase. I'm not going to fault them that much, right? I'll fault them a little tiny, teensy bit. If they just think, well, this is good enough, we just got to go with it. We can't make any changes, or we can't even consider it. Is the same way that I'm going to grant anyone that is frustrated that level of frustration. It's okay to feel that because you are being given things to be frustrated about on a consistent basis with Brad Underwood. From Eric, I'm sick of one guy going off against us since Underwood's been here. Yeah, that's another thing. I would have to go back and look at I'd have to go back, Eric, and look at individual box scores to find that, but it certainly feels that way. I don't know if it's just anecdotal. It does feel that way. I mean, do you remember last year? I want to say it was Maryland, and I know that you were undermanned in the front court. Maybe it was 2 years ago, quite honestly. I think it was last year when Tommy was out, and Reese and Derek Queen went off on you, and I understand. They're good players. But it's as if Brad just shrugged. Well, you know, they had a great game. I don't know, dude. It's not that. It's 5-on-5. Scheme something up. He just seems to say, we'll get him next time. We'll get him next time. Brett, there are only 30 games in a regular season, and each and every loss is keeping you from that seed line that you would want to be on. No urgency. As if they're just going to waltz into March like, we'll play whoever comes. And the problem that I have, I don't think they have any more urgency in March. The record would kind of bear that out. I think it's just let's roll the ball out and see what happens. Bullshit. Win the game. You should go into every game with the roster that you have thinking we're going to win. This unearned swagger that Brad Underwood has let percolate his entire program is the most maddening thing of all. You haven't earned it. You have not earned it. I'm telling you, I don't think he lost sleep last night. I don't think he did. I don't think he's that upset by it. I don't think he's Brett Bielema on the bus ride back from, was it Indiana this year, rewatching the game right then and there. That was unacceptable. I called it as such the next day, but at least I believe that Brett Bielema felt pit in his stomach that his team sucked up the place. I get no such feeling from Brad Underwood. I get no sense that there's actual accountability being held in that room, other than I'm going to passively aggressively talk about how David Mirkovic's ass was back in Serbia. That'll motivate him. You think he cares? If he doesn't like it here, then he'll just leave after 1 year and go either play for another team or go back to the Adriatic League or whatever. It is a guy that is way too cool for school, but doesn't have the resume to do so. Dan Hurley is a prick. Fine. When you win 2 national titles, you can do that. You can. Doesn't make it right. But that guy can have all the swagger he wants. You make a Final Four, puff your chest out. You make an Elite Eight and then give a 30-0 run to your next opponent. I'm sorry, I'd keep that chest a little less puffed. You haven't earned it. All right, this is from Eric as well. Underwood recruits soft players. He recruits skilled players. You can instill a little more toughness than what we've seen, Eric. Yes, I would love to have a Ty Rodgers out there, and I think that would make a difference mentally speaking for this team. But I don't think that means all of a sudden just because Ty Rodgers is playing that they're going to come out yesterday and they're going to have more fire under their butts. I don't know that. By the way, where's Brandon Lee? Not good enough to play? Because the few minutes I've seen him, all I've seen is a guy that hustles and actually plays defense. You want to hold people accountable instead of just sitting David Mirkovich. How about play a guy that would actually play defense? This is from Seth. Bill Self lost 1 home game in 3 years at the Assembly Hall. I remember that game, Seth. It was Michigan State on a Super Bowl Sunday. That was Billy Packer saying that Frank Williams is playing like a dog, which, in fairness, Frank had a bad game, but it was uncalled for nonetheless. And I remember walking out of that stadium thinking, oh, man, this sucks. Like, we don't lose at home. Well, now we do. We lose plenty. Multiple games a year at home. And then act like it's not a big deal. No urgency. Eric says the Crush were good yesterday. I thought so. I mean, but the thing is, Eric, they didn't have much to sustain their cheers. I mean, when it got close, that place erupted at the end of the half. When you tied it up, I think it was a 13-0 run. That place erupted. It was great. It was exciting. When you tied it up at 80, the place went nuts. They were looking for any reason to be in that game. And time again, you couldn't make a stop to save your lives. And it just lost the momentum. St. Dom, there he is. I've been saying for 4 years now that Brad Underwood is not the guy. St. Dom, here's how I am framing this argument. Making tournaments, winning 20 games a year, he's your guy. And then you better hope that by some luck or some advantageous draw or higher seed losing that you can find your way to second weekends. But I don't know. Do you trust that? I don't. And even when he got an Evan, listen, the Loyola game was tough luck in terms of that team was way underseeded. Understandable. But even if they've been seeded accordingly, what, a 4 or 5? And do you make it past them in the Sweet 16? All I'm saying is that when we talk about the underseeded thing, what that does to me is it dismisses the fact that we didn't show up that game. And an entire 40 minutes of regulation went by with no adjustments. And that, to me, set the precedent that we've really been dealing with ever since. That if it's not Illinois' night, it's just not their night. And that they just aren't going to win that game. And you could have told me, Timmett's in that game yesterday. Yeah, not their night. And they don't really seem that intent on changing their fortunes. So I guess it's what it is. Good thing I came in the snow to watch this crap. This is from Eric. Isn't 40 minutes a little too much for Wagler? I love him, but he's going to run out of gas if Underwood doesn't give him a break once in a while in a game. Yeah, I don't know, Eric. Wagler's game for it, and he says, hey, I don't really get winded. No, of course he should be playing 40 minutes a game. An entire offseason to get a roster where you're not forced into playing a freshman 40 minutes a game. I love Keaton Wagler. I hate the fact that he's probably one and done. He looks it. He's better than Will Riley. He's better than Kasparas Yakachonis. He's more consistent on top of that. And we're going to go through 1 year with this unbelievable evaluation from Brad Underwood and his staff and say, wasn't that fun the year that they won 21-11 and lost in the second round to, I don't know, who'd be a 3 seed? Florida, maybe this year. Wasn't that fun? I don't know. I guess. But with expectations, this is the high price of expectations. And Brad Underwood raised those expectations, but he's not delivering through on the idea that we're going to continue to get better. This is from KD. Every announcer congratulating Brad for being flexible with his play style is mystifying. We need a system and recruit to it. All we do is accumulate talent and see what happens. KD, that's a fair point. I have consistently said that Brad Underwood's ability to adapt is his greatest attribute. But there is an argument, as you make. Well, why not just have a system and recruit to that? I think Brad Underwood loves the sort of chase of talent. He's very good at it. He brings consistently really good players into this program. He's putting guys in the league. Essentially, he's Coach Cal. Now, Coach Cal won a title when everything coalesced. Coach Cal made, I think, a title game, didn't he, with UMass and Marcus Camby? Am I right about that? So he'd had that in his history. He made a Final Four national title game with Memphis. So basically, I feel like we're getting late-stage Coach Cal, and we just didn't get to reap the benefits of peak Coach Cal. Like, that's what it is. We're getting late-stage Coach Cal, and even he made the second weekend last year. So all the things that we could say about Coach Cal and Kentucky and the resources he had, yeah, essentially we're playing the last 5 years of Coach Cal Kentucky over and over and over again. And, yeah, Kentucky made a move, and doesn't look like Mark Pope's the guy. That's the risk. I get it. But apples and oranges comparison again. You're in a loveless marriage. It could be worse. I mean, they don't beat me, so it could be worse. You're really just going to live out your days like that? I mean, I know that is maybe a reach, but as a fan, to adopt this philosophy that it could be worse. What do you want? What do you want as an Illinois fan? There's risk involved, but I'm sorry. In my mind, I'm not daydreaming necessarily, but I'm thinking, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could get some fresh blood in here? Because it ain't fresh. This thing is turgid. It is just like lukewarm milk. It's been sitting on the counter for a few hours. It's just there. It's boring. Boring sucks. From Eric, Brad is way too comfortable here. I agree. I'm sorry. It's the read I get on it. He's way too comfortable here. He's got a lifetime contract, essentially. And I get it. But I don't know. What's his... If he doesn't innately think, oh, if I don't win a national title, then you're done, man. I don't think he does not seem to me like someone that is all too bothered about losses. I don't think he is. And that's speculative. But I think we got 9 years worth to say that there's coaches that probably take losses harder than Brad Underwood because they continue to happen. And he could say he's made changes. He's went on, got different talent, and he's figuring out, well, that year didn't work, so this year's going to... No, but it's the same product. He did make different moves in the portal this year, and yet I'm watching the same thing. It's a bad rerun. I mean, it's basically like they turned the cast over on a sitcom to try to freshen things up a little bit. I think on The Facts of Life, didn't they do that? Maybe they got rid of Tootie or something late. Or Saved by the Bell one year. They went to a season of Saved by the Bell. They worked at a summer resort, and I'm pretty sure that Jesse Spano wasn't there, Elizabeth Berkley, later of Showgirls fame. You know, every now and then, these sitcoms will do that to freshen things up. The Simpsons made a great joke about it one time where they, all of a sudden, this guy named Roy lives at The Simpsons. And that's the Itchy, Scratchy, and Poochie episode. The idea, let's just add a new face, and maybe it'll be better. No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same maddening mistakes over and over again. It's the same soft team that is so difficult to root for. That it's just... I got to go with the comments. I'm sorry. This is from Mitch. What is the best thing for Underwood to do to get the best out of this team? Get more physical on defense, less three-point shots. Honestly, Mitch, I didn't have a problem with some of those shots yesterday. I mean, looking at the matchup here, just to make sure we're straight on, the three-pointers, Illinois 10 for 29. That's 34% from three. That'll win you most games. I think 33 or above, you keep shooting them. Illinois shot 48% from the field, and they lost. Why? Because Nebraska shot 52, including 46% from three. And it's so funny how one of the most contested ones was the game winner. But that's appropriate. You weren't contesting them all game. Switch. No one can fight through a screen. Oh, don't. Ow. That hurt. Fight through the goddamn screen and put a body on Peyton Sandfort maybe after he makes his fifth consecutive shot. Are you kidding me? No urgency. And then you just watch 40 minutes of regulation go by. Oh, whoops, we lost. Yeah, no kidding, you lost. What a shocker. Because he didn't show up. You deserve to lose. I mean, if we would have won that game, like I told my friend Kenton, just win by a point, escape, and try to figure things out. But, like, this is the same product. From St. Dom, Underwood has been in Illinois for 9 years. I've seen all I have to see out of Brad Underwood. You're going to get the same thing every year. 9 years, he had one outlier in 2023. Yeah. Brad Underwood's most consequential game was beating Iowa State. St. Dom, this is in response to you. His most consequential game was beating Iowa State because that was a legitimate, awesome game, back and forth, two really good teams, and a level of toughness from that Illinois team. I think that's the peak. I think that's as good as it's going to get. But we say all this, he's not going anywhere. I mean, it would take a huge movement of critical mass for that discussion to even begin. I will say this. If anyone tries to, and I don't know who this hypothetical person would be, but if anyone tells you that just thinking about this is ridiculous, like pondering, could it be better? Oh, come on, man. He's still a really good coach. You can tell them to kiss your ass. It's okay. Because I don't think we're at a point anymore where people can certifiably say, he's the guy. And you know what? You know what the crux of this is, too? What is the worst that could happen if you had another coach? I'm being honest. This is sports, right? So on one hand, I'm kind of contradicting myself. Carpet's only sports. Why are you so wrapped up in Brad Underwood not getting you to higher heights? Fair point. I would counter it by saying, why, when it's only sports, would he be so worried if someone came in and it didn't work as well? Like, what's the consequence? If Brad Underwood's not getting you closer to a Final Four, it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't. And he's not going to win a Big Ten title this year. That ain't happening. So there's no banners to be had this year, right? This is last year on repeat. And of course things can change, and of course they can figure it out, but come on. Based on what? Based on what? Terrence Shannon Jr. is not walking through that door. Marcus Damask is not there to get you 25 points a game on the reg. And Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn aren't there either. So I don't know, man. St. Dom continues. This is a 7-9 loss Big Ten Conference team. This is 2026. Illinois has plenty of money and resources. Nebraska doesn't have nearly the basketball resources as Illinois. We can find a better coach. I do not disagree, St. Dom. I don't. From Brandon, you let Sanford have shooting practice in the first half. That killed you. Rank Mast was pretty well contained. Yeah, he was, Brandon. He got his 17, and that's fine if Tommy gets more than 5 points. Or was it 3? 3 points and 5 rebounds? Merkovich, non-existent. Big Z was fine, but he decided, I'm going to talk crap on my way down from a dunk. Shut up. Take the dunk and shut your mouth, you big baby. I think taunting is a stupid rule because I frankly am on the side that I think you should be able to talk all the crap you want to all game long. It's a sport. Yap to your heart's content. But considering those are the rules and you know it, and that's a crucial moment of the game, shut your mouth. Shut up. And do you think Brad Underwood's going to do anything to hold him accountable for that? No. All right. Seth agrees. Peaked at the Elite Eight season. I think so. Guys, you chart any coach's career, there's a peak. Until proven otherwise, that's it. Let's see if there's anything else here. Fedigator. Petrovic is one of the highest paid players, and not one question asked by the Champaign media after the game. He couldn't have been any worse than the others out there yesterday. In the doghouse, apparently, Fedigator. Remember last year when Trey White just stopped playing? I don't understand what Brad Underwood's thing is. He wants to be a tough guy, but he's really not. He wants to be, I'm hold my guys accountable. He used a Bobby Knight quote yesterday, which what a shining beacon of sportsmanship Bobby Knight is. I don't want a Bobby Knight cosplay for my head coach. I don't want my coach quoting Bobby goddamn Knight. It's Illinois. It's not Indiana. I want nothing of that toxic asshole around my program or spoken by my head coach, when in actuality, you aren't holding your players accountable in any way, shape, or form. So all the bluster and all the braggadocious behavior and the shiny Rolex watches and I'm too cool for school, cut it out. It's a show. I don't buy it. I haven't bought it for a while. Your wins have subsisted long enough for us to ignore that. But these losses get more and more aggravating. It's an emperor with no clothes. That's what it is. Yeah, sorry. Just reminded me of that Bobby Knight quote. Are you kidding me? We're quoting Bobby Knight. You idiot. Let's see. I coach Illinois. I think I'm going to quote Dr. Tom Davis. Lute Olson, maybe. Why not go there? Why not quote Lute Olson while you're at it, you idiot? Yeah, okay. That got personal. Sorry. Let me rephrase. What an idiotic thing to say. Not questioning one's intellect here, but that is an idiotic thing to say. Hope he can pull more diamonds or more gems from the Bobby Knight quote book for the next time Illinois stinks it up at home, loses a game, and he finds one more player to throw under the bus. But, to an earlier point, there's nothing holding him accountable. There's nothing holding him to account. So why would he be one to hold his own players to account? Nothing's holding him accountable. He's got a big, cushy contract. He's in his 60s. This is it. He's going to ride it out unless Josh Whitman did something. And it would take something monumental for him to do that. He won't. Which I wish he would, because I trust Josh Whitman to make a hire far more than I do Brad Underwood to make a run in the NCAA tournament. So we're stuck. I'm an Illinois basketball fan. We could do worse. I'm going to agree with that sentiment. We could do worse. But it just kind of stinks to be in this flatline, plateaued state. I don't like that. I don't like going into each season thinking, yeah, I've seen this before. And maybe he figures it out, but I don't know. That is not how it appears. From Mitch, it's too bad that it seems the University of Illinois men's basketball program will never be a national elite program like I believe that it should be. There's nothing, Mitch, to that point, there's nothing saying it can't be. But Brad Underwood's not an elite coach. He's a good coach. So it ain't going to be him in all likelihood. Are you willing to take the chance on somebody else? From Bart, I think it's fair to feel what you want to feel and judge what you've seen so far. However, I'm not convinced this team is fully healthy and knows their role in this defense. Drawback of a turnover. Fair, Bart. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter how well they're playing in December, if they're playing well in February and March. I think, Bart, the concern with that is we just don't see that enough from Brad's teams. Wait until the inevitable January swoon. There always is with Brad. There's the second, third week of January. The team drops a home game or two, and then they go on a little run in February, and then they have an inexplicable loss, sometimes at home in February, and then sometimes you make a Big Ten tournament run, and that's awesome. It means something. Like, I'm not one who says Final Four or else this season stunk. No, the Big Ten championship team of Kofi's last year, that meant something despite the loss in the second round to Houston. The Big Ten tournament title meant something despite the loss to Loyola, though really the Loyola loss just put a damper on the whole thing. You blew it. You blew it. But it doesn't. That's the thing, guys. You know, when we talk about expectations, of course, it's not about making the Final Four every year. It's not about making for that matter, not about making the second weekend every year. That's unrealistic. Programs don't do that all the time. But it's going through the 5-month process of a season and saying the same thing over and over. The same lifeless performances, the same lack of urgency, the same lack of toughness. That is a hard thing to root for. Just a finesse program. Please stop. It's too late, I guess, to get rid of the hashtag everyday guys, but you are not everyday guys. Stop it. You're certainly not Saturday guys when it comes to State Farm Center games. Does he allow them to just go out and party the night? What is going on with these Saturday games at the State Farm Center? I was there for the fart heard around the world after you got your butt kicked by Penn State at home 2 years ago. I was there for that. I was there for a freezing cold game against Maryland. I want to say the Elite Eight season. I know Terrence was out, but it was just, sleepy Saturday. Oh, Maryland beat us by 8 or 9 points. As if that's okay. It's not. Stop doing that. Actually guard your home court. Defend it. Because if you did, maybe you wouldn't get the 6th seed in the NCAA tournament, and you'd give yourself a chance to overcome your coaching shortcomings. Fedigator. Underwood has definitely peaked at Illinois, but he now has a lifetime contract. Yeah, those don't mean much. It's symbolic. But again, I don't know. He would have to do something really bad or lose like 20 games in a row to get fired. But even then, like, they could miss the tournament this year. He's not going anywhere. He's not. Because one could look at the win-loss sheet and say, well, why would you do that? It was one bad year. He made 5 or 6 tournaments in a row before that. We aren't doing that. What kind of message does that send to potential employees? Guys, you think a coach is not going to come to Illinois because he said after 9 years or 10 years or however long Brad Underwood's here, we want to try something new. That's fair. I think Maryland and Mark Turgeon is an example of this. I feel like Underwood is basically Mark Turgeon. And we from out of town can say, oh, well, who do you think you are, Maryland? I mean, Mark Turgeon won 20 games a year. He made NCAA tournaments. You know what? It is totally fair for their fan base to say, we wanted to make a move. And Kevin Willard was fine. And now Buzz Williams is whatever so far. They don't look very good this year, but they'll probably still find a way to make our game very, very tight and uncomfortable because it's Maryland. As Eric says, Josh will never fire Brad. That's kind of weird. That's why Brad is so comfortable here. Yeah. I would love to get in a position with football to be tired of Brett Bielema going 7-5, 8-4. And maybe I will. I'm not there yet. It was nice to see him and Luke. The football team. They showed up yesterday. And this is 3 weeks removed from the Wisconsin game, which was unacceptable. And they still need to make changes after the bowl game. And we'll see if they do. And I'll hold them to account for that. But, Brett's not selling me all the time. And that's why I am far more okay listening to Brett in a post game than Brad. Stop selling me all the time. I'm not a freaking moron. I was there, Brad. I watched your team suck again. From Greg, I'm done making excuses for this program. This is year 9. Is Illinois any closer to winning a championship? He's been a good coach. Is he great? I'll answer that, Greg. He's not. I can't go above good for him. And maybe Brett Bielema is just good too. But Illinois football and basketball, I hold on different levels. Fair or unfair, historically, Illinois football has been garbage. Illinois basketball has been pretty good. So you're starting off at different points, understandably. But no, he's good. He's not great. We would know by now Brad Underwood was a great coach. He's not. Oh, yeah. I appreciate all these comments in here. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. We got St. Dom, time to move on. I mean, yeah, the thing is, what makes this, again, such maybe a fool's errand is that it's not going to happen. So if you're wondering, man, Carp, why do you sound so dejected? It's because it is what it is. I got nothing more to add here. You're discussing, I am guilty of this, discussing something that is inevitably not going to happen. So then the question is, how can Brad Underwood make it better? And my answer is, I don't think he has the tools or the ability as a coach to do that. He's the head of the snake. The way that he operates is going to influence the way the rest of this program operates. And I just smell a bit of a hoity-toity stink emanating from that bench of a team thinking they're top 10 when they aren't. Of a team thinking that they're a national title threat and they aren't. There's no toughness. There's no accountability. There's talent, but that doesn't mean anything unless it coalesces. So I'll end by saying this. Brad Underwood has raised the floor of this program. From my vantage point, we've peaked. It has plateaued. And I would love to be proven wrong. And I would enjoy that success and heap praise upon him for finding that success. But I don't think there is the drive to do so. I don't think that he is the guy to do so. At which point, as a fan, you got to start asking yourself, okay, what level of enjoyment do I want to get from this? What level of expectation am I okay with them reaching? And I'm never going to take a tournament for granted, and I'm never going to take a 20-win season for granted. That is objectively good and secures his place among a long list of good Illinois coaches. But we need to stop pretending as if this is 1985 and, oh my God, what on earth is going to happen if we had another coach? History suggests that Illinois basketball has a decent chance of finding a guy that can win games. But we won't know that because it's not going to happen. We're stuck. It's what it is. And I wish I had more positivity for you on this morning, but yesterday was ridiculous. And hearing him in the postgame on the radio and the press conference does nothing to ease my concerns about this season and Brad's overall approach. When your own head coach lacks any semblance of humility, then you aren't going to learn things from losses. You aren't. So it's what it is. Wish I could provide more astute analysis than that, but it is what it is. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We will be back on midweek, maybe. We'll do a football one. I want to talk about Luke Altmaier and his career at Illinois, his decision to come back for the bowl game. He doesn't have to, but it was so cool how it was not shocking at all that he is. And talk a little bit about the Music City Bowl as we get into the holidays. I don't know if I'll have a Braggin Rights podcast, only because we got a Christmas party that night, and then we're going to Michigan the next day. So I don't know how to necessarily get that in order. I'll try to think of something. But with the holiday season, you guys are going to have your hands in a bunch of different baskets anyway. So things are going to slow up here as we get into the later part of December. But I wish we could have had a more positive podcast today, that we could have said, whoa, this team's building momentum. 3 straight wins against good teams. And instead, you're reminded of all the faults with this program, and they just are getting more and more exhausting with the frequency with which we see them. But I appreciate you guys on a Sunday morning, a frigid Sunday morning, joining us. Really do appreciate it. Before you leave, do me a favor. If you can like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, I promise I'm not such a sad bastard all the time on this podcast. You know that I am ready to go and heap praise and be happy when the team's performance calls for it. And there's going to be moments this year where this team does that. But there's going to be more moments, unfortunately, where they remind us that they are what they are, which is good, talented, but not great and not consistent. Prove me wrong, please. I'll eat a heaping plate of crow. But until then, I've seen it. I've seen this movie before. I don't love this movie. So I kind of want to watch something different. Like the Bears later today, which hopefully they just run the ball on this extremely cold day and get the win any way, shape, or form and go to 10-4. If not, I'm just going to have to take a long break from sports. All right, before we get out of here, quick reminder to support the 200 level, support our sponsors, Hamilton Walkers in downtown Champaign, steak, seafood, and spirits right in the heart of downtown Champaign. That's Hamilton Walkers. State Farm agent Brian Hansen, online at brianismyguy.com for life, auto, home, business, renters, you name it. Brian is my guy, and he can be your guy as well at brianismyguy.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend. Give them a call at 217-841-4728. That's Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing. And Owen Builders, LLC, online at owenbuildersllc.com for your next home improvement project. Check out a gallery of their work online at owenbuildersllc.com. Thank you all again for tuning in on this Sunday. And on your way out, I'm still a Illini basketball fan. Come on, I've lived it my whole life. It's in this book here, the 200 level. There we go in the camera. Hardcover, paperback, Kindle, any format for a stocking stuffer, for a gift for the Illini fan in your life. Appreciate those that have bought it this December season, quite a few of you. And we'll talk soon, later this week sometime. In the meantime, stay warm and go Illini. It is the 200 level.